Sony and Housemarque are only a few days away from the release of Saros, and the story for most will be its 84 to 94 Metacritic score and yet another triumph from the Sony-owned Finnish studio. For me though, the story is a little different. I feel like I'm watching a high-wire circus act where the safety net has been removed, and while everyone's looking up at this brilliant act, I'm looking around thinking, why is no one talking about the missing safety net? To understand why that wire is so high and the ground below is so hard, we have to take a look at the studio that has spent 30 years being the smartest kid in the room, but the one with empty pockets. Housemarque has always been Sony's technical showcase. In 2007, when the PlayStation 3 was struggling to find its digital identity, it was none other than Housemarque and their Super Stardust HD that not only gave us our first PlayStation trophies, yep, they were first, but became Sony's first digital hit to combat Xbox and then kickstarting the indie revolution on console. A few years later, in 2010, while most AAA developers were struggling to hit a stable 30 FPS, it was Housemarque, the ones flexing on everyone in the entire industry, running stereoscopic 3D. That's two 60 FPS images rendering simultaneously for 120 FPS. They have always been the developer's developer, but that technical brilliance has rarely translated into financial success. In 2011, when the PlayStation hack took full effect and the network went down for 24 days, Sony offered Dead Nation and Stardust along with 3 other games as a peace offering to 77 million players. Housemarque became a known studio overnight, but at the same time, a studio nobody felt they had to pay for. That disconnect between reviews and sales reached a breaking point in 2017 when they released Nex Machina. Arguably the most refined arcade shooter ever made, it was a masterpiece. But as the story goes with Housemarque, those high reviews were followed by a commercial flop. Nex Machina moved fewer than 200,000 units in its first year, and that heartbreak and difficulty forced the studio to release their now infamous Arcade is Dead manifesto. They spent the next 3 years in a dark room crafting what would later become Returnal. They needed a miracle, and they bet their entire company's survival on Returnal. And in a way, it kind of worked, but not how you might think. When Returnal launched in April 2021, it was the first true showcase of what the PlayStation 5 could do. It was a critical darling, it got 86 on Metacritic, it won a BAFTA for Game of the Year, and for me, it was the first must-own title for PlayStation 5. And after 2 decades of an incredible partnership with Sony, they'd seen enough. It was finally time for Sony to acquire Housemarque. And it's here where I'd love to end the video, with a happily ever after. Returnal released a 9 out of 10 and 10 out of 10 game, it made $1 billion, and Housemarque had finally cracked the code of critical praise and strong sales. The reality is a little different. Returnal has sold less than 2 million units in its lifetime. In a world of prestige indies, that's a huge win. But in a world of Sony first party, where God of War and Spider-Man shift 10 to 15 million units as a standard, Returnal is a rounding error on the accountancy books. What scares me even more is that we aren't in 2021. It's 2026. The industry has changed and continues to change at a breakneck speed. Most studios can't keep up. Sony is tightening the belt, closing legacy studios, and focusing more on that return on investment. The grace period for being a niche but cool is long but over. Saros is not a $20 digital-only download. It's a fully priced $70 AAA blockbuster that Sony is backing. Housemarque has been given the budget, the staff, the time, and the marketing machine of any Sony first party. And with that comes targets and expectations. If Saros launches and lands 3 million units and becomes relegated to a reason to buy PlayStation Extra for the game catalog, I think the future of Housemarque looks uncertain. In some ways, Saros itself is what worries me, because Saros is, frankly, the most spiritual successor-looking game I think I have ever seen. The world design, the animations, the gameplay in all of its forms, be it the melee, the gunplay, the movement, they mirror and match so closely to what Returnal was. I get it, I really do. They're trying to do the Fortnite thing, where you have all of the right pieces, they just need reorganized, and you have a hit on your hands. But Housemarque is niche. Their gameplay is an acquired taste, and spending 5 years reworking those great pieces of Returnal into Saros to be not much more than an approachable version of Returnal might hit with critics and people like you and people like me, but if it doesn't move numbers to the general player base on PlayStation, I think Sony will look for a change. So, if you want games like this, go buy it. Tell your friends to buy it, and maybe, finally, the brilliance of Housemarque will finally catch fire. And I'll end on this. If the worst outcome does come true, Saros flops and Sony close Housemarque in the next year, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to see pearl-clutching Reddit posts or YouTube videos echoing, how could they do this? How could Sony do this? Sony screwed up. Oh, but we love Housemarque, just like we saw with Bluepoint Games. If you want and love single-player focused games and experiences from exceptional developers, go improve it. just like we did with Pragmata in the very same month. In a time where investor-led capitalism impacts the game industry more than ever, it's very fitting then that voting with your wallet is now more powerful than ever.